What else should we do today? Oh, I was going to do this. New segment. Let's play the theme. We don't have one. Great. Way to go. Viewer mailbag. You send me questions and I answer them. I've got a couple here, so let's get into them. Question the number 1. Will you be heading to Uncle Dan's to pick up a few bottles to try? Oh, this is a reference to... So if you're not from Australia, and I don't know how global this company is, there's a very famous chain of bottle shops in Australia called Dan Murphy's. You may have seen the headlines about Daniel Ricciardo's wine saying, "My wine from my stores." And there's been this big branding exercise to rebrand the Dan Murphy stores as Daniel Ricciardo's. So you don't go to Dan Murphy's, you go to Dan Ricciardo's and you buy his wine, the DR3 wine. I do want to get some. So far we've tried the Valtteri Bottas coffee beans that I tried raw, but I did drink coffee of them like brewed properly and it was really good. So I've tried that. I want to get this DR3 wine. I've been messaging Zach and he hasn't been responding, but I know he was going to Italy. He was going to try and get the Charles Leclerc ice cream, the Lec ice cream. So I'm hoping he can get some and I'm hoping he can report back on that. But if I can get a bottle of the Dan Ricciardo wine, I'll try some on the next podcast or whatever. And if I go to Dan Murphy's and it's been kitted out with his photo and everything, I'll take a photo. Question the number 2. Love you to talk with Codders about McLaren. What other guests will you be talking to? Oh, thanks. So recently I did an interview with Stuart Codling Codders, who released a book about the history of McLaren. It was basically a nice glossy photo book, but with lots of detailed essay writing as well, because he's a brilliant journalist who's been around the traps. Probably has a few stories about Flavio he could share. Welcome to come on anytime, Codders. But I spent an hour talking to him about the book, the stories from the book, how it came together, all the rest of it. Who else will I be talking to as guests? Well, I'd love to have some more people on. Thinking about reaching out to some other, just podcasters and stuff. I used to try and reach out to journalists, which is always sometimes they're interested, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're busy. You kind of hassle them until they come on and then you feel guilty. I mean, I've talked to quite a few people. I could have guests on who are my friends who would do it just because, but I want to make some new friends as well. So maybe some of the big, Threads accounts, Instagram accounts, people who run those or people who run other podcasts or video podcasts. I'll reach out to a few, see who wants to come on. That would be good. Question the number 3. Just discovered your stuff. Can you tell us more about making the Danica Patrick video? Yeah. I don't know what you want to know. the Danica Patrick video. So I said before, I said on Threads I was going to do a video about Flavio Briatore, but then the Danica Patrick news came onto my radar and I was like, forget that. I've got to do the Danica Patrick stuff instead. It was something along the lines of, I heard about it on a Thursday. I was going to record that night about it. I couldn't do it that night and I did it the next day, edited it, put it straight out, and it just went bonkers. The video did very well and I was very happy. I put it out and within a day it had done 1,000 views or something, which is unheard of for the stuff we put out. But then also, when you log into YouTube, the analytics app, it gives you a breakdown of who your audience is and how many views it's had over time, and it tracks it and everything. And it gives you this idea of here's how this video is doing and here's your average. So most of the time videos just sort of track along and pick up a few views here and there, and it gives you a band. Here's your average views. And this one was just off the charts, huge. And I mean, and in one way that's amazing, of course, and I love that. But in another way it was here's this video, and here's where your videos usually do. And they also try and convert the numbers and analytics, because it's all a bit dry. They try and convert it into they give it a human touch and try to convert the data into something that you could just glance at and be like, oh, cool. So it says, here's your video and it's doing better. If your video had more views than any of your last 10 videos, it's nice, this video got more views. Well done. The Danica Patrick video ended up doing about 6,000 views, something like that. And it's slowing down now, but it was great. But it was this video has done 6,000 views. That's about nearly 6,000 more than most of your views. I'm thanks. Thanks, YouTube. Great stuff. The other thing about that video was that it has these beats where it starts off and it's who is Danica Patrick? People don't seem to like her. Why don't they like her? And why might things have escalated from there further? That was the introductory beats of the video. That's the first 5 minutes. And because I've already done a video about women driving in Formula One and the attitudes that exist in the sport towards women, not by all people, but by a whole bunch of people, and I rattled off heaps of examples, that video that I did back in the day, talking of YouTube analytics, there's this part where it's like, here's how many engagements you got in terms of thumbs up and thumbs down, and here's how many were positive. So that video got a lot of engagements, and the percentage of how many were positive was very, very, very small. So a lot of people had a very strong negative reaction to that. And then the funny thing is, the Danica Patrick video, in the first few minutes, I go through, despite being a woman who was successful in motorsport, Danica Patrick is very vocal in her opposition to women getting involved in motorsport. And I think that at that point, a lot of people hit the thumb down button because they obviously, and I know from some people who responded, they clearly didn't watch the rest of the video saying, yeah, she's right. It's like, did you watch the video? The bit where she says she believes lizard people run the world? You think she's right? Whoops. That's a yikes from me, dog. I think because a bunch of people watched the video and got to that part and decided, no, don't like that, thumbs down, that this video had the same thing where, or it could be conspiracy theory nuts who were like, don't like what you're saying, not interested in that, let's give it a thumbs down. So this is the stuff that I see that people don't see. They just see how many thumbs up it got. But the ratio of thumbs up to thumbs down, very bad. Do better in future, please, Rod, and Super License in general. What's next? Hey, Rod, was wondered if you were... What? Hey, Rod, was wondering if you were as happy for Ralf Schumacher as I am. I assume that this is about the Instagram post. So he posted on Instagram recently that he had found a partner in his life and had everything he needed, and he was very happy. And his partner was a man. And, the story has really blown up and become a huge story. Ralf Schumacher, Formula One driver, comes out as gay. Which, I mean, maybe he's gay, maybe he's bi, it doesn't matter. Like, it's fine. I'm not interested necessarily in talking heaps about it. I mean, I think it's a good thing. I mean, he can be gay. That's great. I support that. I completely support it. Of course I do. But I'm also like, that's his private life, and I don't really have much to contribute other than, good on you. Great. Excellent. He's not the first gay Formula One driver, by the way. Some have come out as bi. Some have come out as lesbian. Yeah, lesbian. Good on him. The thing that's why I don't have much to say about it. But I don't want to just be silent about it and not throw my support into the ring, because that's not that that's diminishing it, but I've become, maybe it's just where I am in my life, but I want to be really vocal in my allyship. So I'm trying. I saw some pushback on threads about Ralf saying, well, everyone's saying congratulations and good on Ralf for coming out in this sense. But it's funny how a few years ago, when other drivers were coming out in support of other causes and other, advocating for other things, he was telling them, hey, you shouldn't do that. I think the example, someone found it, I think the example that he was talking about was, for example, Lewis Hamilton coming out during that 2021 sort of era where he was very vocal about a whole bunch of causes and pushing for Formula One to be more vocal and be more politically involved. Ralf Schumacher was like, drivers shouldn't do that. Drivers' job is to drive. If there's going to be a social message or an advocacy message from the sport, it should come from the sport. The drivers can support it, but it's not up to drivers to bring their personal messages to the events and to the tracks. On the one hand, he has a point. On the other hand, shut up, who cares? So what? And Ralf Schumacher's not a current driver driving in events, so the two are not really, like, that criticism of Ralf Schumacher is just not really relevant. I don't know. Like I said, I want to be more vocal in my allyship and advocacy, so I can't say drivers shouldn't be able to do that. They should be able to do that if they want. I think Lewis has done a great job lately of being quite vocal. I have missed a comment from a little while ago and I'm really gutted. But since we're doing mailbag, let's answer this. This is a live comment from the live stream. Is it Mass's argument that the points from Singapore should have just been voided? Yeah, that is his argument. The problem is, this is again talking about the Singapore Grand Prix. The argument was that Flavio Briatore ordered his number 2 driver to crash deliberately to advantage his number 1 driver, Fernando Alonso, who went on to win the race. So what this person is saying is, wasn't Mass's argument that the points from that race should have been voided. That is Mass's argument. The problem is he's wrong. Just because one team cheated, you don't strip the points from every other team. They didn't cheat. You know what I mean? We know that year, very famously, Lewis Hamilton won by 1 point by overtaking Glock on the last lap and in the last few corners to deny Massa the championship. But all these decades later, Massa is looking back saying, hey, the FIA knew that that race had been fixed. They should have declared me the championship by wiping all teams' points from that whole event. But the counterpoint that people have made, and like I said, when McLaren were found to have cheated by being in possession of the telemetry and, mechanics of one of their rivals' cars, they were kicked out of the constructors, not all teams. That would be ludicrous. So if you were to follow that through, for example, you might say, okay, so the Renault team cheated in that race. Let's strip their points from the whole year or from that race. Because Hamilton finished ahead of Massa in that race, everybody would have just stepped up in the points. So Hamilton would have finished the year on more points than Massa, and he would have been the champion anyway. The whole argument is mute because it's all nonsense. Last question from the mailbag for this week. Tell me this. What's better, horses or tables? You're a real thinker, whoever contributed this one. What's better, horses or tables? I guess the connection here is they've both got 4 legs. Horses, living sentient beings, part of the majesty of our animal kingdom. But tables, extremely handy when you want to eat dinner, play table tennis, play poker. Just don't invite Flavio. If I had to ride one, horse. If I have to eat dinner off one, tables. I hope that answers your question. Send us your stupid questions on Threads, or you can email superlicencepodcast@gmail.com. I think that might wrap up the live stream for this week.